to understand the importance of children's magazines in a culture, we have to understand a particular concept that was put forth by famous literary critic of Tamil Nadu, Venkat Swaminathan. Venkat Swaminathan talked about two circles, an inner circle and the outer circle. What is this inner circle? Take, for example, the Tamil society, or take the entire Indian society. We all know Ramayana. We all know Ramayana's story, but how many of us know Valmiki Ramayana as a scholar? How many of us know Kamba Ramayana as a scholar who has gone through all the verses of Kamba Ramayana or Valmiki Ramayana and understood the beauty of each and every sloka? How many of us know Ramayana like that? In any society, there will be a small number of people all the time. In all generations, there will be a small nucleus of people who know Ramayana in its entirety, in all its beauty. And they will be having instruments to transmit this experience of Ramayana to the entire society. And the society will create its own small inner circles and outer circles. Thus, if a society is to be healthy in terms of its cultural literacy and cultural vibrancy, then the relation between the inner circle and the outer circle has to be harmonious. There should always be a flow of the literary aesthetics, the spiritual values, the cultural values, etc. When this is interrupted, when these become antagonistic to each other, then the society becomes a dry land. In the case of India, this dryness has been designed and disseminated through our educational system for the last 7 decades. In fact, it started long back. It was a slow process. The child goes to the school, learns something which is diametrically opposite to its lived experience of the society and the culture. However, the houses, the homes, they used to be harbingers of cultural literacy. So the child, despite the fact that it was having an Hegelian education, still it could come back to the house and drink the nectar of the culture and spirituality of India. However, this situation also started changing, particularly after the independence. Now, if you look at all our great freedom fighters, all the great freedom fighters, you will find that they have been inspired by the Indic values. They have been inspired by the traditional values and the traditional heroes. They were not inspired by, let us say, the foreign value system. The inspiration always came from the Indian value system. And these Indian value systems were imparted to them in the house, in the home. To take another example from our Puranas, you can say that Prahalada had a very imposed education in the education system he had. But in the womb of his mother, in a very organic manner, he had the real education. The same thing has been happening in India during the freedom struggle. During the freedom struggle, everyone who came to fight for India's freedom, they have been inspired by Indian Puranas and our historic heroes, Veer Shivaji, Guru Gobind Singh. Then, post-independence, what happened? Slowly, the Nehruvian education system took over. And the Nehruvian educational system was designed to disseminate cultural illiteracy. This is something that we have to understand. in terms of the entire Indian nation, a kind of a mechanistic secularism, a kind of a reductionist approach to Indian culture, a fragmented view of Indian history and society. It got imposed on India, on our children. And it was said that this is real India. It was said that this particular type of viewing India is the actual viewing of India. And still the Indian system was fighting. Slowly, one generation after another generation after another generation, when it went, one decade after another decade after another decade when it went, the cultural illiteracy became a phenomenon. If a child goes to school, I'm 100% sure when it comes out, it would be culturally illiterate. It doesn't know anything about, the child doesn't know anything about its real history. It knows about the Aryan invasion theory, it knows about the Mughal period, it knows about, of course, the Gupta period and all that. In a way, it cannot relate itself. Even when they taught Gupta period or the Chola Empire, of course, they were all there in your history textbook. If you remember, when you studied your history textbooks, they were all there. But they were presented in such a way that your own past became alien to you. They talked about the agrarian relationships and how the power structures were created. When the NCERT textbook discusses about the temples built during the Chola period, they talk about the kind of property that the temples were holding. The child never sees a temple as a feudal system, part of a feudal system. It sees it as a kind of a spiritual spot. But the history textbook was telling this, and if the child wants an alternative view of its own history, where it would go? The parents already had been made cultural illiterates. So this was the darkness that was being created by the Nehruvian system. Now remember this very clearly. When we talk about the Nehruvian system, we are not blaming a particular individual called Nehru. In fact, it would be astonishing for many people that during the time of Nehru himself, this Nehruvian darkness had not started and had not enveloped our educational system. As I will be showing you certain examples, the very interesting examples later. Then what happened? By 1970s, you had generations, the younger generations have become completely, mostly, predominantly cultural illiterates. If they went to school, I am almost 100% sure, particularly if they went to elite schools, can be 200% sure they would come out as cultural illiterates. It was at this time that Anant Pai came out with the idea of Amar Chitra Katha. Already in 1970s, if you see, I think that was the time when the phantom comics and all were coming and flooding the children's magazines, children's literature market. And if you look at the phantom comics, for example, you will, if you are a comics enthusiast, then you would remember that Phantom lived in a place called Denkala, and he was the guardian of Eastern darkness. Now, Denkala is actually Bengal, and the Eastern darkness they talked about was the pagan worship, and there was also a caste system of priests and everything, and they were giving opium to the masses, and they were enslaving the masses, and they were indulging in slave trade. And Phantom, the white-skinned hero, goes and thrashes them all, and all those kind of things. So slowly, through the children magazines also, a kind of an aversion towards Indian culture was being created in a very, very subtle, subliminal, unconscious way. It is at this particular point of time that Anant Pai is coming out with this idea of using the comics medium, because he understood that comics was going to be, in the next 2 decades, the comics is going to be the dominant child literature medium. So he understood this very clearly. So he decided that he would use this particular medium to take cultural literacy to the children. And that is how Amar Chitra Katha was born. Now, look into Amar Chitra Katha. I do not want to go into the small details of Amar Chitra Katha, like when it was established, who were the illustrators and those kind of things. but just I would like to tell you this, that Anant Pai had a mission and a vision, and he very successfully did it. For example, he was not only creating the Puranic stories, he was also creating the history, he was creating comics about the history heroes. He was taking into his consideration the entire geographical diversity of India. And he was able to see the unity within the diversity. The apparent diversity, over the apparent diversity, he was able to see the unity. For example, if I am telling a word Kumanan, most of my North Indian friends may wonder. But if you were an enthusiastic follower of Amar Chitra Katha comics, you would not. From my old collection of Amar Chitra Katha, see, Kumanan. So, Kumanan was one of the great philanthropist kings of ancient Tamil Nadu. But his brother, who also wanted to occupy the throne, was very much angry with the way this guy was spending all his money in charitable works and everything. And so he decided to overthrow Kumanan, and Kumanan thought, okay, I don't want to fight with my brother. He himself voluntarily went into the forest. However, Kumanan's brother was not satisfied. He thought even if he was in the forest, he is a potential threat, so he should be eliminated. And so Kumanan, there was a price put on Kumanan's head, and a poet who was in very, very poor condition, in extreme poverty, he comes to Kumanan and says, I want money. And Kumanan says, see, I am living in the forest. Anyway, there is one way I can help you. Just cut my head off, take it to my brother, and he would give you money. That way you can remove your poverty. Now, the poet is shocked, but he wants to make sure that the brother of Kumanan also gets cured of his power greed. So what he does, he creates a very life-looking head of Kumanan, puts goat's blood over it, and then he takes it to Kumanan's brother's court and shows, and seeing the dead head of Kumanan, his own brother, the brother's mind changes, and that is the story. Now, this story is very famous in Tamil Nadu, and only Tamil Nadu's people would know it. But Anant Pai, even in 1970s, he was able to bring out a complete issue on Kumanan and take it to the entire Indian children. This is something that the government should have done to create national unity, national integrity. But it was being done by a single person, a single individual. Now, again, this is completely understandable that a government, by definition, the government mechanism is blind. Almost it is having sub-mediocre intelligence. So it is bureaucracy riddled, and hence naturally with the bureaucracy ridden sub-mediocre mechanism, you would not be able to come out with this. At the same time, you could come out with Machiavellian strategies to divide people on linguistic and communal terms and create vote banks. But what Anant Pai did was that he made sure that entire India understand all other parts of India in a very big way. So he was using this system that he developed to unite India in a way unseen before. In fact, if you take the entire history of India as a flow, then Uncle Anant Pai, he occupies a very important space there. And if you look at the history of Sikhs, for example, the Sikh Gurus. I live in Kanyakumari, and my first introduction to Sikh Gurus was through Amar Chitra Katha. Remember, in 1980s, Congress government had created a very negative stereotype of Sikhs. Sikhs were, for ordinary Indians in the 1980s, some kind of an alien people. They were considered as a kind of terrorists. The stereotype of a Sikh with the turban and the beard, the ordinary people's mind, it has been imprinted as a kind of Khalistani terrorists. In fact, Balasaheb Devaras had to say something like this: not every Sikh is a Akali Dal person, not every Akali Dal person is a Khalistani, and even not every Khalistani is an extremist. Indira Gandhi and her party had created this impression that Sikhs were kind of aliens. There was this negative stereotype of all Sikhs as a kind of terrorists, which were being propagated through the media, sensationalist media, and naturally, for ordinary Indians outside Punjab, they don't know the history of Sikhs. In fact, our textbooks, our history textbooks never talked about the history of Sikhs. What are the kind of sacrifices they have done? What are the kind of sufferings they had endured? So all these cultural links had been destroyed. Remember this, that during the freedom struggle, Subramania Bharati, who was a great poet of Tamil Nadu, he had written a whole ballad song on Guru Gobind Singh. So it was not that the people of Tamil Nadu didn't know about the gurus of Sikh Panth. During the post-independent decades, this is the tragedy of India. During the post-independent decades, we have been made to forget the great sacrifices that the Sikh gurus have done for India. And this was not an accident. This was not just an act of omission. This was done, this was designed so that the cultural illiteracy would lead to fragmentation of Indian society. And that would lead to identity politics. And through identity politics, pitting one section of the society against the other, you can create vote banks, and then the dynasty politics can survive. So what the Britishers were doing, the Congress government under Indira Gandhi, and then till now, it has been doing again and again and again. And for that, cultural illiteracy was a must. And hence, the Sikh gurus were the entire India, most particularly the South India, for example, they forgot the sacrifices of Sikh gurus. It was in Amar Chitra Katha that I first saw the history of Sikh gurus in such a wonderful manner. I always value this particular comics of this particular bumper issue of Amar Chitra Katha. See here, this is the original issue. The three gurus: Guru Nanak, Guru Tej Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh. It contains the history of three gurus: Guru Nanak, Guru Tej Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh. Now, I never knew that the children of Guru Gobind Singh did this great sacrifice. I didn't know the effect of this. I will give you the effect of knowing your history, what kind of effect it can have. I know a particular, in Kanyakumari district, you have Hindu religious classes. So in Hindu religious classes, telling of the stories of Guru Tej Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh, their sacrifices have been all very routine thing. There was this teacher, and she was very poor, who used to take classes in these things. And she was looking for a groom. Days, months, years went on. And she couldn't find one. The missionaries approached her. They told her, okay, we have got this boy who is a very earning very good salary from a government college and all that. All you have to do is get converted and get married to him. And then during a conversation, one of her friends asked her, okay, it all looks good, rational. See, you don't also have parents, and they are offering you a very good opportunity. Why not you just get converted and get married? Then she answered, I have taught my children in the religious classes the sacrifices of the sons of Guru Gobind Singh. how can I ever even think of getting converted? See, when you have cultural literacy, it does a lot of wonders for you. Once you remove the cultural literacy, then it becomes easy for you to get manipulated by breaking India forces. So this removal of cultural literacy, dissemination of cultural illiteracy through the educational system is a very important thing in the scheme of breaking India forces or dividing India forces for whatever sake. And it is this that Anant Pai, he didn't think of all these things. All he wanted to do was he wanted to bring Indian culture and history and its spiritual traditions, its cultural values to the children. And for this, he launched Amar Chitra Katha. And Amar Chitra Katha played a very important role. Not only the gurus, the history and all that, the scientists of India, for example, Yellaprada Subbarao. Now, if you take our history books or you take our science books, if you think of the contribution of Indian scientists, I am not talking about Bhaskara, Aryabhatta, all that. Of course, that is also very important. But let us say in the modern times, the contributions. The story of Yellaprada Subbarao had not gone out of Andhra Pradesh. Think about this. He was the first person to arrive at the fact that it was adenosine triphosphate ATP, which is the biological coin of energy. He missed a Nobel Prize. In fact, Nobel Prize missed him actually. And he had invented a lot of drugs for alleviating pain. He had dedicated his own life for removal of pain for the humans. And this particular scientist's name we have never heard. And it was Amar Chitra Katha that brought the story of this great scientist to us. Thus, whether it is modern times, whether it is ancient India, the pride in being an Indian in a very positive way was created by Anant Pai's Amar Chitra Katha. And I'm very happy to say that the tradition continues even today. There are some apprehensions that Amar Chitra Katha had changed the track and all that. No, it hasn't changed track. For example, one of their latest publications is Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana. They have some 7 big bumper issues. They have brought an authentic comics version of Valmiki Ramayana with a lot of information inside in a graphical manner. And it is a must that every Indian child goes through it. And their issue on APJ Abdul Kalam is also equally inspiring. It very clearly shows the fire is still there in Amar Chitra Katha. If Amar Chitra Katha did this, there is another one magazine that too should be talked about. It was founded in 1947. It's called Ambulimama, Chandamama. It was first brought out in Telugu and Tamil. See this. These two were the South Indian languages. This Ambulimama or Chandamama was brought out first in these South Indian languages. Later it became a pan-Indian phenomenon. Here it was brought by Nagi Reddy, and this particular magazine, this children's magazine, with beautiful illustrations. This is also an important thing, that the people who did illustration for this children's magazine, they didn't take it as a child job. They gave their life to it. They created, in fact, an entirely new art form. In any other country, it would have been celebrated. In fact, go through the entire history of comics. Can you ever see anywhere comics like Amar Chitra Katha, where sheer diversity of the subjects that Amar Chitra Katha dealt with, the kind of research that went into creation of each and every issue of Amar Chitra Katha is amazing. And those days there was no internet. It was not easy for you to go and search. You have to go and really work hard, go to the library, take books. You have to contact people through long distance telephone calls, and you have to really put your blood and sweat into it to create a particular issue. An issue like Kumana. Think about it. A person sitting in Maharashtra, Anant Pai, he was able to do this. Kannagi, he had created. That is why, see, if you are meeting a boy, say, now she should be 30 or 40, a person from Punjab, if that person, he or she knows Kannagi, And if you are meeting a person from, say, village of Tamil Nadu, and that person knows Guru Deshbhagatu, then there are only two possibilities. One, they should have read Amar Chitra Katha, or they should be telling Egatmata Stotra. It is through these things that we got united, that when the strands that connect us were getting slowly cut off, these people were again and again weaving these strands without us knowing that they were doing it. They never made a big noise about that. Anant Pai didn't make noise about that. Nagi Reddy didn't make noise about that. They were slowly doing their job in the background, calmly, quietly, without even telling that they were battling cultural illiteracy. They were battling cultural illiteracy in a very impressive manner. But I will tell you one example of how Ambulimama helped. There is some years back in Outlook, an author, one guy called Anant, who was with this pseudo-Dalit Navyana and all that kind of things. Basically, he doesn't care about Dalits or Navyana or anything. What he cares about is demonizing Hinduism, nothing else. So he wrote something on science in Outlook. And he told that in India, the physicians were not held in high respect. They were considered as lower caste because of the Brahminical way of looking at things. Just if you look at correspondingly the European countries, you will find that there also the barbers, the surgeries, persons who conduct surgeries and physicians, they were considered as a kind of socially low. It is a common tendency. But it is only in India, I realized suddenly that it is only in India that the physicians should be treated with respect has been sounded in the very scriptures. From where did I get it? From Ambulimama. Because Ambulimama serialized Devi Bhagavatam. When Ambulimama serialized Devi Bhagavatam, it brought the story of Shivana and Suganya. There, as you all know, the viewers should be familiar with the story. Shivana was a very old person, and Suganya, a very young princess, had agreed to marry him because she had out of in a playful mood, in an ignorant way, had damaged his eyes, and so she told that she would live with him. And then the Aswin brothers, they come, and the celestial physicians, they come and they tell that we would give the youthfulness of your husband back, but he would look like us and you would have to choose the correct person. Of course, because of her power of chastity, she is able to choose the correct Shivana. And then Shivana asked the Aswin brothers what they want. And they say that they want an Avirbhaga of Yajna. Now, why the Aswin brothers were excluded is because they were physicians. Of course, there is this social stigma associated with the physicians. But what does the Dharma say then? The Dharma says that the physicians should also get the Avirbhaga. That is what the story says. So the values that are present, that are encoded in the Purana, actually are for social emancipation and not for social degradation or social exclusion of the physicians. So the Sanatana values are for social emancipation of the physicians. And where do I get from this? Suddenly, when I read that, I know that the guy was wrong because I had read Ambulimama. So the Ambulimama actually brought, or Chandamama, Ambulimama is the Tamil name, Chandamama is the English, they brought it in Sanskrit, they brought it in Hindi, they brought it in Telugu, they brought it in Malayalam, in all Indian languages. So Chandamama, Ambulimama was a very wonderful collection of books. Vajirav's Sacrifice. I first learned it from Ambulimama. No textbook ever told me. The same way, the Sacrifice of Ashwakulla Khan. I will give you another one example. The Sacrifice of Ashwakulla Khan, where did I learn? I learned it first from Amar Chitra Katha. Despite all the pretensions of secularism, no history textbook of the Nehruvian system told me about Ashwakulla Khan. Why? The reasons are very strong. Ashwakulla Khan was asked by the British intelligence to abandoned the revolutionaries and joined the British government. They said, the particular person who was trying to brainwash Ashfaqullah Khan said to him, the Hindus are fighting for Hindustan, and why do you, a Muslim, have to fight for Hindustan? And then Ashfaqullah Khan said, I would rather live in a Hindu nation than under the British. So this particular reply by Ashfaqullah Khan was brought out in Amar Chitra Katha, in its story of Indian freedom struggle, in its series on Indian freedom struggle. Naturally, why should the Nehruvian system tell me this? The Nehruvian system always wanted to divide people by cultural illiteracy, by historical illiteracy. It created a framework in which it told you again and again that you are rootless people and your past is alien to you. Just you have been cut out from the past. All your history really starts only the midnight bell of August 15, 1947. The Dravidian literature, of course, the Dravidianist education, they wanted to tell us that all our history starts only with the reign of Karunanidhi and G.V. Ramasamy. So this cultural illiteracy had been battled very successfully by Ambulimama and Amar Chitra Katha. I will show you some of the bound volumes of Ambulimama so that you can have an understanding of what it actually brought us. So here you can see, this is a bound volume of Ambulimama. Here they were serializing, it's 1976. They were serializing the adventures of Hanuman in this. You can see here how Hanuman was captured in Ashohavana. So for a child, it is very easy to visualize the whole epic in its mind. Not only that, they also used a lot of innovative storytelling techniques. One of them was this. You would all have seen this. Vikram or Vedal. Now, traditionally, Vikram or Vedal, there are 22 to 25 stories, depending upon which version you read. The Vedal was telling stories to Vikram, and at the end of the story, it would ask a question. And Vikram has to give the answer. The story always had a small knot in it, a moral knot or a sensational knot in it, and you have to actually unravel it with your intelligence. What Ambulimama did was, it used that particular template and created its own stories. Every story had a moral value, and the child will have to answer that, the last. And of course, at last Vikram will answer it, but the child would be made to think about the moral issues in that particular story and decide that when it reads the answer given by Vikram, these new stories, these are all new stories. When it reads the answers given by Vikram, then it would have an understanding of how to have a dharmic evaluation of a particular situation. How beautifully they have done all this. So this is the childhood we got despite the prevailing Nehruvian darkness. Now I said, when we are talking about Nehruvian darkness, we are not talking about a particular person, Jawaharlal Nehru. There were a lot of good people, even within the system, who were trying to battle cultural illiteracy. Here is, for example, book from National Book Trust, Nehru Pustakalaya. Okay, and see this just the kind of illustration, and this is about the youngsters who are very brave. So the paintings are beautiful. You can see that. Perhaps I should show it in closer. Right? And here you have an illustration of Abhimanyu. You can see. And these are the kind of stories that were brought to us when we were in childhood. If we want to make our children culturally literate, if we want to really battle the breaking India forces in a very effective way in the next generation and the generations to come, then we have to look for innovative techniques to do the same thing that Anant Pai and Chandamama had done. In fact, there is another one organization that also brought very beautiful books, and that is Rashtrotthan Parishad. Rashtrotthan Parishad was a Sangh Parivar organization based in Bangalore. they brought out small booklets for children. And these booklets covered scientists like Birbal Sahni, for example, C.V. Raman, Puranic characters like Parasurama, Rama, Krishna, and all that. Then characters from modern history, they never showed any partiality. They even had an issue. They had a book on Motilal Nehru. So they didn't discriminate between anyone based on ideology or anything. This is another one important aspect that we have to learn right now. Whether it is Anant Pai, whether it is Ambulimama, whether it is Rashtrothan Parishad, they never cared about ideological biases in presenting history. Unlike the Nehruvians always cared about ideological biases. And they were actually removing data and adding data based on twisting, distorting facts based on their ideological vested interest. Whereas in the case of all the three, whether it is Ambulimama, whether it is Amar Chitra Katha or Rashtrothan Parishad, they never cared about ideology when they were bringing out the books. They wanted to take the entire Indian history and entire Indian tradition to the children, irrespective of any ideological biases. And because of this, what happened actually is this. And this is where we have to understand also the importance of or the greatness of Hindutva. Hindutva is not an ideology like Marxism is an ideology. Hindutva is not an ideology like Nehruvianism is an ideology. Hindutva is not an ideology like Dravidianism is an ideology. Hindutva is the very national life of India as it flows. And hence, whether you are giving the lives, for example, Amar Chitra Katha has a particular issue on Babur. It has an issue on Shah Jahan. It is published on Nehru. Point is, if you take the entire national stream, then these small eddies, these small currents, they just become insignificant in terms of the entire narration. So they don't care about a particular issue being a particular issue, say for example, Babur being against. Of course, Babur was an invader. Why should we bring an issue on him? Why should you bring an issue on Motilal Nehru? Point is, they too are part of the national life's river course. And the greater Hindutva has subsumed all these people. Remember, they were not advocating the values of Babur. The values that Anant Pai advocated are the values of Shivaji. If you just look at the way he has created, the way he has produced, the book that he loved to produce was that of Bhagavad Gita. If you look at the way the Shivaji issue had been produced, you will understand the love that man had for the national heroes of this land. Veer Savarkar. The way Veer Savarkar suffered in Andaman was graphically brought in front of the children by Amar Chitra Katha. There was a particular panel that I can never forget, where Veer Savarkar had been in a particular cell where he had been frequently kept. With the help of the nails, he had carved a poem in that particular cell. It is about the Swatantra Devi. And then he had been removed. Another one prisoner had come there. That prisoner was feeling very sad and down and depressed. At that time, he finds the particular poem in the wall and he sings that, he reads that, and he feels a great strength flowing through him. This particular panel in Amar Chitra Katha brings out the essence of Veer Savarkar in that. So this is how these people, so whatever the leftist propaganda about Veer Savarkar, these images that have been imprinted in our mind can never erase what Veer Savarkar really did for this nation. This is the strength of truth. Remember this. When we talk of Amar Chitra Katha, Anant Pai never called himself Hindutva. He would never have called himself Hindutva. Or Amar Chitra Katha people, even today, they won't call themselves Hindutva. No reason for them to call themselves Hindutva. Or for that matter, Chandamama. Unfortunately, in 2013, Chandamama had stopped. So through this video, I think I should make a request to the forces that we should revive Chandamama in all the languages. It is a national asset. In fact, in my opinion, there is no such children magazine phenomenon as Chandamama. There is no such comics phenomenon as Amar Chitra Katha. They are national assets. They are part of the things that make you feel proud of being an Indian. It enriches your childhood's memories, and it makes you a better Indian. Please remember this. We are today what we are. We are born in this particular tradition, not by just accident of birth. At particular point of time, one of your ancestors, one of my ancestors was threatened or lured to change his way of or her way of life. They chose Dharma over death and allurements. And that is why today we are following Sanatana Dharma. And what Anant Pai did was strengthen that conviction. What Ambulimama did was strengthen that conviction. We are basically inheritors of that. We are today children of Sanatana Dharma because of those sacrifices. And it is our duty to make sure that our children inherit it. And if it is in our generation that Ambulimama had stopped, in our generation that Chandamama had stopped, it is actually a shame on us. Often we used to think that our fathers, basically the 1970s generation, the people who were adults in 1970s and 80s, they were immersed in this Nehruvian delusion, and that is why we are in these problems. But that was also the generation that created these wonderful assets for India, eternal assets for India. And if we are not making sure that these things get to our children and the children to come, then we are doing a mistake. We should never be blamed by our posterity for that lapse. And so we should make sure that the Chandamama or Ambulimama gets revived again in all its glory. And Amar Chitra Katha, it is now going to the multimedia platforms and other things. It is having its own evolution. We have to make sure that Amar Chitra Katha always carries the flames of the values of Uncle Anant Pai. And through that, we will be ensuring that India remains united and strong and vibrant. Another important dimension of both Amar Chitra Katha and more importantly Chandamama and Ambulimama is this: the way they told stories. Almost it is as if you are sitting in the lap of your grandmother and you are listening to the story. There was a lot of emotional input to the story that was given to it. And as I said, there were innovative attempts to take things to the children. One of them was done by the Indrajal magician Sarkar. So what he did was, he wrote stories for children. Just think about this. An internationally reputed magician who was earning in lakhs, he was writing children's story like this. So this is a story written by A.C. Sarkar. And what he writes is, see this is another very important thing that you have here. So how to make a finger that looks as if it has been cut off from the body move. So he actually explains the entire mechanism of how to do that particular magic through a story. And this particular story would be filled with its own magic so that the child will feel so related to it. Now, here is something that we have to know. Whenever magic tricks have been discussed in India, particularly in the Nehruvian era, what has happened is this: they always made it a point to make a mockery of our religion and our faith systems. So always the magician would be exposing a particular fake sannyasi who was doing this particular magic and making the people believe that it was a miracle. But what Ambulimama did was, here the magician would be actually a very religious person, but he would be performing this magic so that a particular magic trick so that a particular psychological problem that a character in the story was encountering would go away. So here you see the AC Sarkar gave a very wonderful holistic treatment, a cultural context for the magic. That way, Ambulimama again stands unique in the history of children's magazine. And they talked about the emotional content. When you think of the emotional content, one thing was this, that the stories always were accompanied by pictures. These pictures were unique to Ambulimama. Shankar, for example, was very good at drawing these pictures. And if you look at all these pictures, you will find that these pictures had always made the children relate to Indian countryside. So here we have, for example, see the kind of pictures that are here. See the picture. The child can relate to the Indian countryside in which it was living. So these were not urban, these were not detached. So your history, your sociology, your society, your environment, they do not get cut off from your present living conditions. They form a continuum. So the child always feels as if he is belonging to the history. And here, it was here for the first time, I came across Baji, who sacrificed his own life for Veer Shivaji. So here it was, the sacrifice of Baji Prabhu for Veer Shivaji. And this is the way you teach children. It is here in these books, Ambulimama, that I first studied about Baha Jatin, who was a great revolutionary Bengali fighter. I still remember. Baha Jatin means he actually killed a tiger with his own hands. And then they wrote, not just a Bengali tiger. Later, he would also encounter the very British lion with his own hands. And that is the kind of, the emotional input that has been put into the way you can relate to it with your heart, not just your brain. With your heart, you can relate to it. So you understand the kind of sufferings that our freedom fighters have undergone. So when the panels were showing about Baha Jadini escaping and the villagers were told that they were dacoits and they have to capture them and they were going behind, the child who reads that would want to say to the villagers that no, they were freedom fighters, they are not dacoits, don't listen to the British. So that is the kind of involvement these stories created in the young minds. And if our children are going to miss these stories, the fault is entirely going to be ours. It's criminal sin that we would be doing to our posterity if we do not upgrade, adapt, and make sure that these legacies flourish. Because these legacies, in the darkest of our times, made sure that the light of our civilization put in beautiful lamps, and they were handed over to us through these magazines and this phenomenon of Amar Chitra Katha and Chandamama, that it would get transferred to the next generation. And it is our duty that we do it correctly, properly, efficiently, in a way our children, our coming generations would look at us with the same respect that we are now having for Anant Pai and Nagi Reddy. Namaste. Thank you very much for this opportunity.